Hello, welcome to our presentation regarding the funding of an outreach plan with the intention of creating a more robust city archive that highlights our area's unique history and allows for further access and research. The outreach program is meant to highlight the various archival materials that our archive has to offer. This outreach program also has the mission of soliciting donations for furthering the digitization process of the archive's holdings. Our archive has several interesting collections, including a variety of items related to Charles Lindbergh, genealogical records, the city government documents, and several collections related to our automotive history. While we are not looking to celebrate any of the particular people associated with our collections, we do believe that access to our archives will create a thriving research environment for local learners and also those who will be able to access newly digitized materials. Outreach in the archival world is critical, because while we know what amazing holdings we have, it's time to let the rest of the world know too.
In order to guide our outreach goals as an institution, we created a mission statement which, as you saw on the previous slide, is to strengthen the historical record, to provide access to all, and to enrich local cultural institutions. From our mission statement, we were able to distill our goals into increasing awareness and usage of materials, providing knowledge, partnering with other institutions to unite resources, and to solicit donations on a variety of levels to ensure the success of our archives. In our outreach efforts, we want to highlight the historical value and significance of the collection as a source of research and historical information. Our collection includes many locally sourced records from Charles Lindbergh materials to local history and genealogical documents, which will appeal to a wide array of users. In order to increase awareness and encourage use, we decided that our first priority should be making our collections easily accessible. Since most of our users will access us online, we first need to focus on funding the efforts to digitize our collection. We want our digital collections to attract users and donors who desire to further fund our mission. Since we identified that the users of our institution will mainly access us digitally, our first objective is to begin digitizing our collections. For this, we need to purchase a scanner with the power to properly digitize our documents. Digitizing our documents, however, will not simply create access. We also have to acquire a content management system. So our second objective is to then create full online access. We decided that the content management system, Omeka, was the best choice for our archives because it is a unified application, meaning it provides both a web user interface and a behind-the-scenes cataloging function. It is also an open access content management system, so we can onboard it at no cost except for our staff's time. Our third objective is to promote the use of our collections through outreach. One of Omeka's strengths is its ability to create online exhibitions, which will assist us in catering to the interests of our users. However, we must first identify who our audience will be in the digital world.
The Outreach Program Planning Committee has identified these potential user groups that would most benefit from outreach methods and use of the digital archives. Targeted outreach with these groups can also benefit the archives in terms of word-of-mouth exposure and donations. Through different types of outreach, we can show these users what the archives hold and how they can benefit from our materials. The potential user groups have been identified as students, elementary to college age, local genealogy enthusiasts, city employees, the automotive industry, as well as historians, writers, and documentarians. With our three-phase outreach plan, we will target these groups with methods tailored to their needs and interests. To effectively promote our archives and meet the needs of our community, we have broken the outreach program into 3 major phases. Once the digital user interface is up and running, we will work to make the public aware of what the archives offer. We will then begin to teach the identified user groups how to use the archives. The final phase of the plan focuses on the future of outreach for the digital archives. The goal of Phase 1 is to make the public aware of the resources available from our digital archives. This will be accomplished by distributing user surveys in high-traffic areas like the public library, community centers, City Hall, and online, as well as posting and distributing flyers. We will also put up small local displays in City Hall and local historical institutions, and develop and maintain a variety of social media accounts. In addition to raising awareness of the existence of the archives and its holdings amongst local residents, Phase 1 will also help make the archives an attractive cause for our city's most illustrious philanthropists. The goal of Phase 2 is to show the user groups how our resources can be useful to them and teach them how to use them. Through workshops and presentations in school classrooms and community and senior centers, these user groups will be able to learn how to access the digital archives and use the materials for themselves. We can work with the public library and other groups to teach users to use the associated technology like computers as well. Phase 3 is the future goals for the archives. If the proposed outreach program is successful, we hope to be more involved with the community, like sponsoring community events and using our materials to inform the development and planning of such events.
The timeline for this project is set up for the 3-year rollout. After the initial 3 years, the outreach impact will be measured and decisions on future outreach and further expansion of the digitization of the collection will be evaluated. The timeline of the initial project begins with ensuring the archive is ready for greater public access and allowing time to get at least a portion of the collection digitized so that users and potential donors will be able to see what the finished project could look like and how it could be used. While the archive is being readied, the workshop planning is also beginning because this work can be quite time-consuming. It may also be helpful for the staff to think through how to present the information while they're working with the materials. User surveys and focus groups begin after the archives have been prepped, but before the various outreach campaigns start. This is to make sure that the campaigns are going to hit the points that the public actually cares about in regard to the collections. Workshops roll out in year 2 after the various Phase 1 public awareness campaigns begin. This is to allow the community to become more aware of the collection and then sign up for workshops. School workshops begin slightly before the general community workshops because children are great advocates of learning. If a child gets to attend a workshop at school, they will go home and share the experience with their family. This could get their family interested in attending a community-based workshop. Finally, after the initial 3 years, a time of evaluation and future budget planning is scheduled.
The budget allotted for the Charles Lindbergh Digital Collection will need to be spread amongst the project's staff compensation, technological needs, and outreach materials, both physical and digital. With the main goals of the project being the promotion of the collection itself, much of this budget will be used in service to achieving the previously mentioned initial outreach goals. Current efforts have been made to make this project as cost-effective as possible, both in the short term and long term. However, in order for the collection to appropriately be maintained and shared, the suggested level of funding will have to be secured for each year outlined in the following slides. The first year of the 3-year plan is geared towards digitizing the collection and promoting its use to the community. Technological items imperative for this goal, such as the hardware listed in the first section, are fortunately one-time expenses that will either be made in year 1 and simply maintained in subsequent years, or are lower-cost subscription items that can easily be renewed annually. Much of the outreach efforts can be maintained at very low cost. Social media accounts can be developed for the archive at no monetary cost, although the staff time will obviously be allocated to maintaining a regular presence online. Promotional materials that can be displayed on-site and in other relevant community locations can be printed out of house to spare the archive unnecessary equipment and printing costs. What is of primary importance to this project during the first year is appropriate staffing. Grant funding has been allocated for colleague consultants to assist the collection development and digitization process, but the technical requirements of the project will demand more regular attention. Bringing on part-time archival interns to provide daily digitization assistance will ensure that the backlog does not become overwhelming and the digital catalog remains up to date. The second year of the project should focus not so much on the development of the collection itself, but rather the steady maintenance of digitization efforts and the development of a strong, reliable online catalog and repository where the digital collections can be housed. For this reason, the archive should consider incorporating a large storage hosting server, omeka.net, to house the collection and develop exhibits online. Promoting the collection itself should remain a priority, and promotional materials should still be printed out of house and shared with the surrounding community. Possible newsworthy items could be the revealing of a new exhibit, a lecture given by a speaker from a local educational or historical institution, or the request for patron feedback on the development of the collection thus far. All items should be duplicated and shared both in person and online when appropriate. Continued digitization and technology support will be required to keep the collections and databases in reliable working order. Increasing the hourly rate of the part-time digitization interns will hopefully provide encouragement for archival students to connect with the archive and learn hands-on skills during their internships, while not putting too much undue stress on the overall budget. It should also be suggested that contracted IT support be included as a regular part of digital collection maintenance. Developing a positive rapport with an organization that can make house calls to the archive on a regular basis is an excellent way to maintain the repository and catch any issues that might arise. Similar to Year 2, the budget for Year 3 is planned in service to the maintenance of the digital collection, although hopefully by this time the archive would have developed a strong digital presence within the community. If this is the case, the archive can extend its outreach online by improvements to the website, which would allow for more detailed explanations of the collections, resources, and events available within the archive. Increasing the website's appearance, utility, and reach allows for a greater number of patrons to be reached with more effective communication. This is not to say that the archive should refrain from prioritizing in-person promotional efforts. Rather, the archive should continue to make physical outreach an important aspect of its mission, providing patrons the opportunity to connect with these items and events in concrete physical ways, as not all patrons may have access to a computer or a social media account. Keeping outreach accessible to all patrons is the best method of promoting one's organization and showing that there is something available for everyone to understand and enjoy.
In order to grow and to complete effective outreach, we must digitize. This plan will ensure that we reach a broad audience of users because, with limited operational hours and staffing, our users will not have to physically visit us to access and use our collections. In order to fulfill our vision for outreach, we must have adequate funding. We have the potential to be an active and widely used cultural institution that highlights the rich history of our city. Let us be that institution for you. Thank you for listening and considering our proposal.